3 bits. Now a couple of things I want to show you, and I'm going to move the camera now so you actually see what I'm doing. Okay. Alright. So this is a spaded bit or a flat bit, and I'm just going to drill a hole with it. One thing that's important is, like it says in the PowerPoint, you need to keep your hands at least 2 inches away from the blade when you're holding something. Now you can do that a number of ways. In this case you could use I'm going to see if you can see this. If you can't see it, then I'll change. Okay. You could use a clamp. In this case I'm using this small bar clamp, and you can see the bar clamp right there. Okay. So that's going to help hold the material as I drill the hole. If you have a big enough piece of material, you could use a bar clamp that way. Okay, before I get started again, if at all possible, you should clamp material down. Now what happens if I'm trying to drill a hole in something smaller than 2 inches? Okay, it's critical that you understand that, again, you don't want your hands anywhere near the bit. There's a lot of times small pieces are hard to hold, and you'll end up losing your grip, and that's going to end up turning quite fast, and you can get your hands injured that way. So one good thing that you can do is use this old block clamp, stick that piece of material in there, and now I've got more to hold on to, and my hands aren't closer than 2 inches to the piece of wood that I'm cutting. So those are a couple different ways you could use this. All right. I'm going to go over the parts of this machine here so that you understand what they're all called. Okay, let's start with the chuck. So this part right here is called the chuck. And what that does is it holds the drill bit into place. Now, this is the chuck key. Now, a lot of the portable drills now have gone away from using a chuck key. They use what's called a keyless chuck. So it's just a matter of tightening the bit on without a key. In this case, I haven't seen a drill press that has a chuckless a chuck without a key. So this one does use one. This goes right in here and it fits into that slot. And as you turn it, it loosens the teeth that are down here that hold the bit. Okay? So probably the most important thing is that when you put a drill bit on there, you want to make sure that it's snug. It doesn't have to be super tight. It just has to be snug enough to hold the drill. Then you're going to take this away. You don't want to leave it on there because all kinds of things can happen. So make sure when you're using the drill bit that you're going to, before you turn it on, do anything else, you take the chuck away. And this is usually hanging right there. So I'm going to show you that just so you can see it. It's hanging right there. Okay, it just hangs down. So you want to make sure you replace it, put it back where you got it from. As you can see, the drill bit's on there. Again, this is a spaded bit. Okay, so right up here, this part here is actually adjustable. And what that does, you would put that all the way down to a certain point, and it would stop the drill from going any farther. So this is an adjustment gauge. These two knobs right here, they adjust. So they'll go down so that you're able to set the depth of what you're trying to cut that hole at. So that's what this is for. This is to adjust. If you need to cut a hole but not all the way through the piece of wood that you're working on, you would make that adjustment right here. Okay, so these are adjustment knobs. They run on here and they'll stop it at a certain point so that the drill bit will only go so far. All right? Okay. I'll swing this around a little bit. Try to give you a better look. This is the on and off switch. Down here. Okay, I turned on the laser and you can see it right there. What that does is it gives you where the drill bit is going to come in. Okay, so it also has a light. Doesn't seem like the light is working at this point, so we're not going to worry about it. I don't necessarily use the laser, so I'm going to turn that off. Questions? Go ahead. The laser? Not necessarily, because most of the time you're going to mark what you're going to cut, and you'll mark it with an X or something, and you can just put the point of the drill there. I think a laser is just there as a novelty item. I don't think it really, I mean, I don't use it. I've never used it. So I think it's just a novelty item. Some people might like to use it, but it's not necessary. So you really don't have to worry about the laser. Did that answer your question? Okay. All right. So I'm going to swing this around just a little bit so you can see the other side. Okay. Hold on. There you go. Okay. So these handles, right, you have to figure out when you're drilling a hole where you're going to hold to make it go down. If it's going to go, if you need to go farther, then you're going to have to grab the other one so that you can pull it farther around to go down. So you need to make that adjustment based on the piece of material you're trying to cut and the depth of your cut. So handles here. Okay. Now let's go down right there, and you can see that lever. Hopefully right here. What that does is it loosens the table so that you can adjust the height of the table. Okay, so it's pretty simple. It just turns and now it's loose, and I'm going to move the camera again because you need to see this. Let's see if I can get down underneath here. Yeah, you can see the handle. So if I turn this handle here, that's going to make the adjustment on the table. See, the table's now going down, or the table's going to go up. Okay, put it up pretty far. All right. Make this adjustment again. Okay, so I'm going to tighten that down. Now, while it's loose, the table will also move. Hold on, I'm not showing you that. While it's loose, the table will also move from side to side if you absolutely needed to. Not recommended, but it does move from side to side. So once you make your adjustment, you want to make sure that you tighten this lever back down. Okay, you don't want to leave it loose because that table can move on you, and you don't want that to happen. So once you make your adjustment, again, you don't want to wrench down super tight. You just want it to be snug so that it holds the table in place. Okay, hold on 1 second. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm just going to drill a simple hole and show you the process. So turn the drill press on, then with the levers that I showed you, you're going to bring it down. Okay, now what I normally practice is I don't go all the way through. I try to kind of gauge how far I'm going to go down before it starts to break on the other side. And the reason I do that is you can see that this has some pieces that have been cut out. And if I keep going, it's going to break right here and break all kinds of pieces off. So I don't want to do that. That's why I kind of guess with the depth of the bit how far I need to go before it breaks to the other side. Then I turn it around. cut the other way. Okay, you don't want to move this till this comes to a complete stop. So once this stops, then you can go ahead and move this out of the way. As you can tell, I have a nice clean hole on this side with very little breakage. And what that means is parts of the wood splinter and cause an uneven hole. And I'll try to show you that. This one, it has a little splinter right there, right? But you want to have as little of that as you can. So there's another way to do it. So if I use a second piece of wood and put it on there, so that when the drill comes through, it's actually cutting through both of those pieces of wood, I'm going to have less breakage. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. You want to go slow. You don't want to force the bit. Only go as fast as the bit will cut. And as you're coming to the other end, you probably want to go even slower. Okay, that time I didn't turn the bit around, and you can tell I have a little bit of breakage there, and that's what you want to avoid. And normally, if you put these two and you clamp them together, you won't have any breakage. So that's just another way of doing it, of making sure that these are clamped to the table so that you get a nice clean cut as you go in or come out. All right, so I'm going to change the bit. I'm going to cut with the Forstner bit. I'm going to put a bigger one down on there so that you guys can actually see it. Again, you just want it as snug as you can get it. Don't wrench it in there tight, because then it's going to make it too hard for you to. The other thing is you want to make sure that your table is pretty clean, because you don't want this to be, you know, a little piece of sawdust on there can make your cut not go straight, especially with the Forstner bit, because it has this distance or the width. And if that's going there crooked, you could have all kinds of problems. So you want to make sure that your board is flat. So make sure that there's no sawdust or anything that's going to impede it from being on the flat surface. Okay? Because you don't want it to wobble as you're making that cut. All right. I'm going to check this to make sure I can go as far as I need to, and okay. Now I could adjust the table and then I wouldn't have any problem with that, but for sake of not getting down there and making an adjustment, I'm going to try to do it this way. Now, one of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to go straight in, especially with this bit. You want to let it up a little bit so that the bit doesn't heat up. So you want to go in a little bit at a time. And you can see that I can see the hole right there. It's right there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it around and finish my hole. Now I can barely see the point of this bit, but I want the point to fit right where that hole is. And then finish my cut. Okay, so that's just a piece of wood that's stuck in there. Now I have a nice cut all the way through it. So there's a lot of reasons you would use this, and it just depends on the project you're working on, and I'll just give you an example really quick. So I made these two cuts with a larger bit, and I used these for the tripod that I made that I'm filming on right now. That's what makes this adjustable, and I will show you a video of how I did this tripod with a boom I'll probably post it this week sometime. That way you guys can at least take a look at it. And again, using the drill press gives you the ability to make some pretty good cuts that can be useful in all kinds of different projects that you can use, that you'll be able to build in class. All right, so one more drill bit. I'm going to take this one off. And I'm going to use this one, which is a pretty good sized hole. It's actually bigger than the hole I used before. I'm going to use a different piece of wood. So it's good to twist this by hand to get it to the right place you need it. Okay, there you go. Now, you absolutely can't use this with a smaller piece of wood that you have to hold this way because you don't have enough leverage. So you want to have enough leverage when you're using this particular saw in order to cut. So let's see how it works out. First, check and see if I get the right depth. And I should be able to get the right depth. So the same thing applies. I don't want to go in just to cut it all the way down. Hold on one second. I want you guys to be able to see. So I want to go a little bit at a time and go slowly so that I'm giving the blade enough time to cut. Same thing applies. I don't want to go all the way through on one side, which I just did. And the reason for that is because now this piece of board is actually stuck inside there. So if that ever happens, usually I turn it around and cut the other side. Okay, so if that ever happens to you, it has these slots that are inside this drill bit. Okay, and you can just use those slots to push it down. Okay. And once you get it to a certain spot, you should be able to just pull it out. Okay. But it's a good idea not to go all the way down to cut both sides. That way part of this is sticking out so you can pull it down. All right. Okay.